Africa is not a country. Africa is not poor. Africa is not behind. Africa is the beginning of humanity, the cradle of civilization, and the engine of the future. Before the world had borders, Africa had kingdoms. Before the world had money, Africa had trade. Before the world had history books, Africa had stories written in stone, gold, blood, and memory. This is not the Africa you were told about. This is the Africa you were never taught. Today we journey across time, land, people, truth, and destiny. This is Africa. Before we dive deep into this documentary, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. Stay tuned to our channel. Long before Europe, Asia, or the Americas, human life began in Africa. The earliest human fossils were discovered in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. Science confirms what Africa has always known. Every human alive today traces their roots back to Africa. Africa is not part of human history. Africa is human history. From the Great Rift Valley, humanity spread across the earth carrying African DNA, intelligence, creativity, and resilience. Africa gave the world language, art, music, mathematics, spirituality. Africa didn't follow civilization. Africa created it. Egypt was African, culturally, geographically, spiritually. The pyramids were not built by slaves, but by engineers, architects, and mathematicians. African science aligned stars, measured time, and understood medicine thousands of years before modern textbooks. South of Egypt stood Nubia, richer in gold, stronger in military power, and often rulers of Egypt itself, a North African superpower that rivaled Rome. Hannibal, one of the greatest military strategists in history, was African. Africa ruled trade, knowledge, and power. Africa was home to wealthiest empires in human history. Mansa Musa, the richest man who ever lived, crashed entire economies just by traveling. Timbuktu held libraries with hundreds of thousands of books when Europe was in the Dark Ages. Advanced governance, universities, law, and trade networks. Massive stone cities built without mortar. Architectural genius. Africa was not waiting to be developed. Africa was already developed. Africa is Earth's most diverse continent. From the Sahara Desert to the Congo rainforest, the Serengeti Plains, Mount Kilimanjaro, Victoria Falls, Cape coastlines. Africa holds 30% of the world's mineral resources, 60% of the world's arable land. The richest biodiversity on Earth. Africa doesn't just have beauty, Africa is beauty. Africa has over 3,000 ethnic groups and 2,008 languages. Music, dance, storytelling, fashion, spirituality. Africa influences the world daily. Afrobeats, jazz, blues, hip-hop all trace back to Africa. African culture is not old-fashioned, it is timeless. Community, respect, elders, identity. Africa remembers what the modern world forgot. Before religion was exported to Africa, Africa already understood God. Ubuntu, I am because we are. Ma'at, truth, balance, justice. African philosophy shaped global morality long before colonization tried to erase it. Africa never lacked wisdom. It was silenced, but never destroyed. The myths and lies about Africa. Myth, Africa is poor. Truth, Africa is resource-rich but exploited. Myth, Africa has no history. Truth, Africa's history was stolen and rewritten. Myth, Africa needs saving. Truth, Africa needs fairness, ownership, and unity. Africa's story was distorted, but the truth is rising. Colonialism did not bring civilization. It disrupted it. Borders were drawn without regard for culture. Resources were extracted without consent. Education was limited by design. Yet Africa survived. The African spirit bent, but never broke. Africa today is the youngest continent, the fastest growing tech ecosystem, home to global innovators. From fintech in Nigeria, renewable energy in Kenya, film in Nollywood, fashion, sports, science. Africa is no longer asking for permission. Africa is building. By 2050, 1 in 4 people on Earth will be African. Africa will feed the world. Africa will power the future. The future is not coming to Africa. The future is African. Africa is not a victim. Africa is not behind. Africa is not forgotten. Africa is rising. To know Africa is to know yourself. To respect Africa is to respect humanity. This is our story. This is our land. This is Africa. Africa is beautiful in ways that cannot be reduced to postcards, statistics, or short stories. Its beauty is layered, ancient, living, and unfinished. To speak of everything beautiful about Africa is to speak of humanity itself, because Africa is where humanity began, learned to walk, learned to speak, learned to dream. I'll tell you slowly, fully, and with respect. Africa's first and greatest beauty, its origin. Africa is the mother of humanity. Every human being alive today, no matter race, language, or nationality, can trace their ancestry back to Africa. The first heartbeat of mankind happened on African soil. The first footsteps, the first laugh, the first fear, the first hope. This alone makes Africa sacred. When you look at Africa, you are looking at the beginning of the human story. That is a beauty deeper than aesthetics. It is existential. Africa is not just a place, it is where we became us. Africa is the most geographically diverse continent on Earth. It has deserts so vast they look like oceans of gold. The Sahara is not empty. It is powerful, ancient, and alive with memory. It teaches silence, endurance, and humility. Africa has rainforests that breathe for the planet. The Congo Basin is often called the second lung of the Earth, rich with life so dense it feels primordial, as if the world never aged there. Africa has savannas where the horizon stretches endlessly, where lions, elephants, giraffes, and zebras move as they have for thousands of years. The Serengeti migration is one of the greatest living spectacles on Earth. Millions of animals moving in rhythm with time itself. Africa has mountains crowned with snow under the equator, Mount Kilimanjaro standing like a quiet king above the plains. The Atlas Mountains, the Ethiopian highlands, the Drakensberg, each shaped by fire, pressure, and patience. Africa has rivers that carry civilizations on their backs. The Nile, the longest river in the world, cradle of ancient knowledge. The Niger, bending like a question mark through West Africa. The Congo, deep, powerful, mysterious. Africa has waterfalls that shake the ground. Victoria Falls, known locally as the smoke that thunders. Africa has coastlines kissed by both the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. White sands, coral reefs, fishing villages where the sea is not scenery but survival. This land is not just beautiful to look at, it is alive with meaning. Africa's greatest beauty is its people. Not because they are perfect, but because they are real. Africa is home to over 3,000 ethnic groups and more than 2,000 languages. Each language carries a worldview. Each culture carries a philosophy. Each face carries history. African beauty is found in the grandmother who knows the names of plants that heal, the father who builds a future with bare hands, the mother who carries generations on her back, the child who laughs even when tomorrow is uncertain. African people have mastered joy without excess, hope without guarantees, and strength without applause. There is beauty in the way Africans greet one another, not rushed, not cold, but human. There is beauty in shared meals, shared labour, shared grief, shared celebration. Africa understands something the modern world often forgets. You do not survive alone. African culture is not decoration. It is identity. African music is the heartbeat of the world. Drums were not instruments. They were communication. Rhythm was not entertainment. It was memory. Jazz, blues, gospel, hip-hop, reggae, Afrobeats all carry African DNA. African dance is language. Every movement tells a story of harvest, war, love, grief, fertility, worship. African fashion is not trend. It is history worn proudly. Patterns speak. Colors communicate status, region, emotion, and belief. African storytelling is one of humanity's greatest treasures. Before books, Africa had griots, living libraries who memorized history, lineage, and law. Africa did not lose its stories. Some were silenced, but they survived in song, proverb, and oral memory. The beauty of African wisdom. Africa is rich in philosophy. Long before modern psychology, Africa understood the human spirit. Ubuntu, I am because we are. This idea alone could heal a fractured world. African proverbs hold deep truths in few words. Elders are not seen as old, they are seen as accumulated knowledge. African spirituality respects balance between nature and humanity, between the living and the ancestors, between the physical and the unseen. Africa teaches that life is sacred, land is sacred, and community is sacred. Africa's history is not a footnote, it is a foundation. Africa built the pyramids of Egypt and Nubia, the universities of Timbuktu, the stone cities of Great Zimbabwe, the trading empires of Mali, Songhai, Ghana, the naval power of Swahili city-states. Mansa Musa's wealth reshaped global economies. African scholars debated astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and law while much of the world was still learning to read. Africa was not discovered. Africa was interrupted. And yet, Africa endured. Perhaps Africa's most painful beauty is its resilience. Africa survived slavery, colonization, artificial borders, resource theft, cultural erasure, political manipulation. Yet Africa still sings, still laughs, still creates, still dreams. That is not weakness. That is strength refined by fire. African movies are rich in history and diverse culture and is a treasure trove of true story films. Stories that are rooted in real events and individuals, offering audiences a look into the everyday life that makes up the African experience. From historical epics to intimate dramas, these films bring to life the stories that have shaped the continent. By now, we all know that humanity and civilization originated in Africa. This means that almost every field in existence today has its roots in the motherland, and we have the original black kings and queens to thank for this. Besides coffee and shea butter, here are some of the most significant gifts from ancient Africans to humanity. Medicine. Many modern treatments used today were first practiced in ancient Africa millennia ago. For instance, the earliest known surgery occurred around 2750 BC in ancient Egypt. Imhotep, the Black Egyptian physician and architect and real father of medicine, was the original doctor from whom the Greek physician Hippocrates learned all that he knew. In fact, Imhotep was practicing and writing about medicine for over 2,000 years before Hippocrates, and the Greek physician even credits Imhotep, renamed Asclepius by the Greeks, as the god of medicine. Imhotep practiced plant medicine and knew about blood circulation and the location and function of the vital organs. Some of the first procedures performed in Africa before anywhere else in the world include brain surgery, vaccinations, autopsies, arthritis treatments, pregnancy tests, tests to determine a baby's sex, broken bone setting, dental work, caesarean sections, cauterization, anesthesia, and more. Even during American slavery, plantation owners who were ill often didn't call a white physician to their sickbed. Instead, they trusted and relied upon the Big Mama on the plantation's expert knowledge of plant medicine and herbs. Several ancient African cultures made advanced discoveries in astronomy that still astound historians today. Africa has produced some of the greatest architectural marvels in history. From the hundreds of pyramids in Egypt and Sudan to the colossal stone complexes and castle-like compounds of Great Zimbabwe and Mozambique, to the legendary grand mosques, palaces, and universities of the Malian Empire. Sudan still has over 200 pyramids standing despite an Italian explorer destroying many in his search for gold. The Pyramid of Giza still reigns as the oldest and last surviving ancient wonder of the world, and it was built with a technology that modern engineers still can't replicate. Africa has also been a huge source of artistic influence. Works like the renowned bronze sculptures of the Benin Kingdom greatly influenced artists like Picasso. But much of this heritage was lost in the late 1800s when the British sent over 1,000 soldiers to burn down towns and villages in Benin and kill the locals. The British soldiers looted the royal palace, stealing thousands of valuable monuments, wood carvings, ivory, masks, and bronze sculptures, which they shipped to Europe for distribution to major museums. The oldest records of mining and tool-making also date back to the continent. Ancient Africans mined gold, iron, copper, salt, and minerals, and made metal chisels and saws, iron and copper tools and weapons, steel and bronze weapons and art, nails, steam engines, and glue. Archaeologists date the oldest known mine, Lion Cave in Swaziland, at about 43,000 years old. There's a rich history of African descendants in the diaspora, inventing new products and improving upon existing ones, often in the face of institutional racism and state-sanctioned illiteracy. But as impressive as their achievements are against such odds, you'll still have to dig a little deeper than a simple Google search to learn about these incredible individuals. Black creators are often overlooked, underappreciated, appropriated, or deliberately written out of history. It would be an impossible task to try to identify all the black inventors, past and present, and their vast body of creations. So what I'll do instead is single out some of the more fascinating and prolific inventors who aren't as familiar as they should be. Some black women you need to know. Henrietta Lacks, the mother of medicine. Although Lacks herself wasn't an inventor, she posthumously changed the future of medicine. Her cancer cells created the first immortal human cell line, known as HeLa, and arguably the most important cell line in medical research. Her cells have led to countless medical breakthroughs, including the development of the polio and HPV vaccine, virus research, gene mapping and chromosome research, cloning, cancer research, radiation research, HIV research, tuberculosis, fertility research, and more. But her story has a lot of ethical issues because, for one thing, neither her nor her family consented to her cells being taken. And while there have been major leaps in medical science and huge financial gains for pharmaceutical companies, Lack's children have remained poor. 70 years later, her cells are still being used for medical research in labs all around the world, and there have been over 10,000 inventions using her cells. Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Dorothy Vaughan. These three formidable women are depicted in the 2016 epic biopic Hidden Figures. If you haven't seen the movie yet, drop everything and go watch. If you have, drop everything and go watch. The biographical drama tells the story of these three brilliant aeronautical engineers, basically human computers, who were key to the early success of the NASA space program. A nurse named Marie Van Britten Brown and her husband created the first home security system in 1966 to protect her while her husband was away. The system, which included a camera that could look through peepholes in her front door and feed the image to her via a monitor, a two-way microphone to talk to the visitor, and a button to open the door or contact the police, paved the way for the design features commonly seen in security technology today. Dr. Gladys West, a brilliant mathematician whose calculations formed the building block of the GPS system we worship today. In 2018, the humble inventor was inducted into the US Air Force Hall of Fame. In a Guardian interview last year, she spoke on the rare recognition of black achievement. Ironically, Dr. West said she doesn't use the system she helped create because she prefers physical maps. Dr. Marion Croak, Google's current Vice President of Engineering, is the brains behind Voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP. The technology that makes it possible for us to have Zoom calls, Skype calls, video conferencing, and online audio-video interactions. She holds over 100 patents in VoIP technology and over 300 inventions to her name. Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner. She invented the sanitary napkin belt that paved the way for modern menstrual products. Her belt featured a built-in adjustable napkin pocket that was moisture-proof and intended to prevent menstrual leaks on clothing. She also invented the toilet tissue holder. Dr. Patricia Bouth invented a way to remove cataracts using a laser in 1988. Her creation has saved the eyesight of millions around the world. Sarah Boone created the modern-day narrow, padded, collapsible ironing boards. Madam C.J. Walker, an enterprising chemist who built a cosmetics empire for black women. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, she was the first self-made millionaire in America. There's a Netflix miniseries about her life that came out a couple of years ago. Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, her groundbreaking scientific research led to the creation of caller ID, call waiting, touch-tone telephones, fiber optic cables, solar cells, and the portable fax. Black men you need to know. Garrett A. Morgan created two things that are a staple in our culture today: the three-color traffic light and the gas mask. He created the former after he witnessed a car accident and realized drivers needed to be better warned to yield, stop and go. And his gas mask saved a lot of soldiers in the First World War and is still being used by firefighters and chemists today. Dr. Charles Drew, whose revolutionary technique for storing blood plasma led to the creation of the first ever blood bank. Dr. Mark Dean, computer scientist and inventor with over 20 patents who should be as infamous as Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Dr. Dean was instrumental in the creation of the first personal computer and color monitor, owning 3 of the 9 patents that IBM used for the first PC. He co-created the system that allows for printers, scanners and drives to be plugged directly to a computer. He also led the team that created the first gigahertz computer chip, a revolutionary technology that significantly improved processing power with 1 billion calculations per second. He broke the barrier of what was considered possible in processing speed. Frederick Jones, who invented portable refrigeration in the 1930s that made it possible for food to be transported anywhere without perishing. His innovation led to the rapid growth of the frozen food, supermarket, and long-haul trucking industries. His invention was instrumental in preserving blood and supplies during the Second World War. Jones has over 40 patents in refrigeration and also invented the automatic movie ticket dispenser. Lewis Latimer, a skilled electrical engineer and patent drafter. He invented the carbon filament light bulb in 1881 that drastically improved the lifespan and efficiency of bulbs and could be widely installed in homes and on street corners. Without Lewis Latimer, the light bulb invention often attributed to Thomas Edison might not exist as we know it today. Latimer also created an air conditioning and disinfecting system for hospitals and public rooms, and co-created the railway car toilet. George Washington Carver, an expert botanist, chemist, and agriculturist, often referred to as the plant doctor and the father of the peanut industry. He invented over 300 different uses for peanuts and other crops. He was instrumental in rebuilding the southern economy by sharing his alternatives to cotton and teaching his methods for rehabilitating the soil. George Carruthers, an astrophysicist who built the telescope that NASA used in the 1972 Apollo 16 mission to the Moon. Thanks to his device, NASA was able to capture ultraviolet images of the surface of the Earth and over 500 other images of galaxies and stars. Granville T. Woods has over 100 inventions to his name, but most notably invented the railway telegraph, which allowed messages to be sent between rail stations and moving trains. His invention led to safer train travel as it allowed stations to communicate and share information about how far away trains were, etc. Woods actually had a court battle with Thomas Edison over his invention, and Woods won his case, prompting Edison to try to hire him, but Woods declined. Otis Boykin invented over 25 electronic devices. His most infamous creation is a wire resistor that controls the flow of electricity to a device, withstanding shock and extreme temperature changes. His creation is a key component of the pacemaker, but is also used in computers, guided missiles, and household appliances. John Stannard, who improved the functioning of refrigerators by adding a manually filled ice chamber designed to circulate and trap cool air. He also created a portable oil stove to serve hot food at buffets, a central part of the catering industry today. Richard Spikes created the automatic safety brake for vehicles while losing his vision. George T. Sampson created the forerunner to modern automatic clothes dryers in 1892. John Lee Love created the portable pencil sharpener. Alexander Miles made elevators safer in 1887 by creating the electric version with the automatic closing doors we take for granted today. Walter Salmons created the hot comb, the predecessor to today's flat irons for straightening hair. Although originally created for black women, it's used by women everywhere today. From the dawn of human existence, Africa has whispered tales of creation. It is the very cradle of humanity where our shared story first began. This vast land holds the echoes of our earliest ancestors, a profound legacy etched into its ancient soil. This is a continent of breathtaking beauty, where nature's artistry unfolds in countless forms. Majestic vistas and serene landscapes paint a picture of unparalleled grandeur. Every horizon tells a story of wonder and wild grace. Africa is a tapestry woven with ancient heritage and vibrant modernity. Threads of profound history intertwine with the dynamic pulse of contemporary life. It is a place where tradition dances with progress, creating a unique and compelling rhythm. Its story is whispered on the wind, carrying sagas across vast plains. It is etched in the sands of time, preserving the wisdom of forgotten empires. It is sung in the hearts of its people, a melody of resilience, joy, and hope that resonates across generations. Here, one beholds the raw power of nature in its purest form. The earth breathes with an intensity that captivates the soul. Every corner of this continent reveals an untamed spirit, a testament to enduring wildness. Diverse landscapes stretch across its immense expanse, each one a world unto itself. From the snow-capped peak of Kilimanjaro, touching the very heavens, to the lush, emerald depths of the Congo rainforest teeming with life, Africa showcases unparalleled variety. Arid deserts meet fertile savannas, creating a mosaic of environments unlike any other. This vast and varied terrain stands as a testament to the Earth's artistry. It is a living canvas where geological forces have sculpted wonders over eons. The sheer scale and intricate details of its natural formations inspire profound awe. Beneath its surface, Africa holds rich natural resources that have shaped global history. Diamonds gleam from ancient mines, and gold veins trace paths of immense wealth. Vast reserves of oil and gas fuel industries worldwide, while its fertile lands nourish countless lives. These resources, a gift from the earth, have profoundly shaped destiny. They have fueled both remarkable prosperity and, at times, considerable struggle. Their presence underscores the continent's immense geological significance and its complex relationship with the world. Africa stands as the undeniable heart of human history. Its soil holds the genesis of civilization, the roots from which all cultures sprung. The narrative of humanity is intrinsically linked to this remarkable land. The continent brims with a proud heritage, a legacy of innovation, art, and governance. This rich past informs and enriches the present. Generations have built upon foundations laid by ancestors, creating a continuous thread of identity. Here flourished ancient kingdoms and vibrant cultures, each with its unique splendor. Empires like Kush, Aksum, and Great Zimbabwe rose with architectural marvels and sophisticated societies. Their contributions to knowledge and artistry were profound and far-reaching. Through millennia, a resilient spirit has endured, shining brightly through every challenge. This spirit speaks of strength, adaptation, and an unwavering connection to identity. It is a powerful testament to the human capacity for perseverance. The echoes of these magnificent empires resonate in structures like the Great Zimbabwe ruins. These stone marvels speak silently of a powerful, complex civilization that once thrived. They stand as enduring symbols of ingenuity and ancient might. The artistry of the Dogon people, expressed through their intricate masks and celestial knowledge, offers a glimpse into profound spiritual depths. Their cosmology and craftsmanship reflect a sophisticated understanding of their world. This living tradition continues to inspire and instruct. Enduring traditions are passed down through generations, connecting past, present, and future. Oral histories, ceremonial dances, and artisanal skills are meticulously preserved. These practices ensure that the wisdom and beauty of ancient ways continue to flourish. Africa is a vast expanse, boasting a constellation of nations, each a unique star in its firmament. 54 sovereign states contribute to the continent's rich mosaic. Each nation adds its distinct voice to the collective African narrative. Every nation possesses its own unique charm, a blend of history, landscape, and cultural expression. From bustling metropolises to tranquil rural communities, diversity defines the experience. This individuality creates an endlessly fascinating tapestry. South Africa captivates with its stunning coastline, where two oceans meet in dramatic fashion. It is also a nation known for its significant economic prowess, boasting a dynamic economy. This nation stands as a gateway to innovation and natural splendor. Egypt, a land of ancient wonders, holds the pyramids and temples of pharaohs. It is also a nation driven by modern ambition, forging new paths in the 21st century. The timeless Nile River witnesses both enduring heritage and contemporary dreams. Morocco offers a captivating fusion of cultures, where Berber, Arab, and European influences intertwine. Its vibrant souks and historic kasbahs create a breathtaking landscape of sensory experiences. This kingdom invites exploration of its rich traditions and stunning vistas. Nigeria, a true powerhouse of innovation and creativity, pulses with an energetic spirit. Its burgeoning art scene, dynamic music industry, and entrepreneurial drive make it a leader. This nation exemplifies the vibrant future of the continent. Kenya stands as a haven for wildlife, renowned for its majestic migrations and diverse ecosystems. It is also a gateway to adventure, offering safaris and thrilling explorations. The spirit of the wild thrives amidst growing urban centres. Across Africa, cities pulse with an undeniable life and boundless energy. These urban centres are melting pots of innovation, commerce, and culture. They represent the vibrant heartbeats of modern African societies. Cape Town emerges as a true jewel of the South, nestled majestically beneath the iconic Table Mountain. Its cosmopolitan atmosphere, stunning natural beauty, and historical depth make it a global destination. This city gracefully blends natural wonder with sophisticated urban living. Marrakech, the ochre city, offers a sensory explosion of colours, scents, and sounds. Its bustling souks, ancient palaces, and vibrant Jamar El Fna Square create an unforgettable experience. Here, tradition and enchantment mingle in every corner. Lagos, a megacity on the rise, is a vibrant hub of art, music, and commerce. Its relentless energy fuels a thriving creative industry and a booming economy. This urban giant is a testament to Africa's ambitious future. Nairobi stands as a modern metropolis with a wild heart, where skyscrapers meet wildlife sanctuaries. This city seamlessly integrates contemporary urban life with the raw beauty of nature. It embodies the dynamic contrast that defines much of the continent. These cities are powerful testaments to Africa's dynamism, constantly evolving and adapting. They embrace the future with open arms, driving progress and fostering innovation. Simultaneously, they honor the rich traditions and profound histories that define their identity. Africa stands as a continent of endless possibilities, where potential blossoms in every sunrise. Its inherent beauty, from vast landscapes to intricate cultures, continues to inspire and enchant. This land embodies a spirit of resilience that has overcome countless challenges, emerging stronger and more vibrant. An unwavering spirit of hope and progress defines its present and lights its future. Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia. At about 30.3 million km2, 11.7 million square miles, including adjacent islands, it covers 20% of Earth's land area and 6% of its total surface area. With nearly 1.4 billion people as of 2021, it accounts for about 18% of the world's human population. Africa's population is the youngest among all the continents. The median age in 2012 was 19.7, when the worldwide median age was 30.4. Based on 2024 projections, Africa's population will exceed 3.8 billion people by 2100. Africa is the least wealthy inhabited continent per capita and second least wealthy by total wealth, ahead of Oceania. Scholars have attributed this to different factors including geography, climate, corruption, colonialism, the Cold War, and neo-colonialism. Despite this low concentration of wealth, recent economic expansion and a large and young population make Africa an important economic market in the broader global context, and Africa has a large quantity of natural resources. Africa straddles the equator and the prime meridian. The continent is surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea to the north, the Arabian Plate and the Gulf of Aqaba to the northeast, the Indian Ocean to the southeast, and the Atlantic Ocean to the west. France, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Yemen have parts of their territories located on African geographical soil, mostly in the form of islands. The continent includes Madagascar and various archipelagos. It contains 54 fully recognized sovereign states, 8 cities and islands that are part of non-African states, and 2 de facto independent states with limited or no recognition. This count does not include Malta and Sicily, which are geologically part of the African continent. Algeria is Africa's largest country by area, and Nigeria is its largest by population. African nations cooperate through the establishment of the African Union, which is headquartered in Addis Ababa. Africa is highly biodiverse. It is the continent with the largest number of megafauna species, as it was least affected by the extinction of the Pleistocene megafauna. However, Africa is also heavily affected by a wide range of environmental issues, including desertification, deforestation, water scarcity, and pollution. These entrenched environmental concerns are expected to worsen as climate change impacts Africa. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has identified Africa as the continent most vulnerable to climate change. The history of Africa is long, complex, and varied, and has often been underappreciated by the global historical community. In African societies, the oral word is revered, and they have generally recorded their history via oral tradition, which has led anthropologists to term them oral civilizations, contrasted with literate civilizations, which pride the written word. African culture is rich and diverse, both within and between the continent's regions, encompassing art, cuisine, music and dance, religion and dress. Africa, particularly Eastern Africa, is widely accepted to be the place of origin of humans and the hominidae clade, also known as the great apes. The earliest hominids and their ancestors have been dated to around 7 million years ago, and Homo sapiens, modern human, are believed to have originated in Africa 350,000 to 260,000 years ago. In the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE ancient Egypt, Kerma, Punt and the Techet tradition emerged in North, East and West Africa, while from 3000 BCE to 500 CE, the Bantu expansion swept from modern-day Cameroon through Central, East and Southern Africa, displacing or absorbing groups such as the Khoisan and Pygmies. Some African empires include Ouagadougou, Mali, Songhai, Sokoto, Ife, Benin, Asante, the Fatimids, Almoravids, Almohads, Ayyubids, Mamluks, Congo, Mwenemuji, Luba, Lunda, Kitara, Aksum, Ethiopia, Adal, Ajuran, Kilwa, Sakalava, Imarina, Maravi, Mutapa, Rosvi, Mithwakazi, and Zulu. Despite the predominance of states, many societies were hierarchical and stateless. Slave trades created various diasporas, especially in the Americas. From the late 19th century to early 20th century, driven by the Second Industrial Revolution, most of Africa was rapidly conquered and colonized by European nations, save for Ethiopia and Liberia. European rule had significant impacts on Africa's societies, and colonies were maintained for the purpose of economic exploitation and extraction of natural resources. Most present states emerged from a process of decolonization following World War II and established the Organization of African Unity in 1963, the predecessor to the African Union. The nascent countries decided to keep their colonial borders, with traditional power structures used in governance to varying degrees. Afri was a Latin name used to refer to the inhabitants of what was then known as Northern Africa, located west of the Nile River, and in its widest sense referring to all lands south of the Mediterranean, also known as ancient Libya. This name seems to have originally referred to a native Libyan tribe, an ancestor of modern Berbers. The name had usually been connected with the Phoenician word afar, meaning dust. But a 1981 hypothesis has asserted that it stems from the Berber word ifri, plural ifran, meaning cave, in reference to cave dwellers. The same word may be found in the name of the Banu Ifran from Algeria and Tripolitania, a Berber tribe originally from Yafran, also known as Ifrana, in northwestern Libya, as well as the city of Ifran in Morocco. Under Roman rule, Carthage became the capital of the province then named Africa Proconsularis, following the Roman victory over the Carthaginians in the Third Punic War in 146 BC, which also included the coastal part of modern Libya. The Latin suffix "isaise" can sometimes be used to denote a land, e.g. in Celtica from Celtae, as used by Julius Caesar. The later Muslim region of Ifriqiya, following its conquest of the Byzantine, Eastern Roman Empire's Exarchatus Africae, also preserved a form of the name. The terms North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa has been subject to recent criticism from some scholars due to its historical root in colonialist discourse, which arbitrarily separated Africa into a white Northern Africa and black Southern Africa, overlooking common genetic links and regional diversity across the continent. In accordance with African cosmology, African historical consciousness viewed historical change and continuity, order and purpose within the framework of man and his environment, the gods and his ancestors, and he believed himself part of a holistic spiritual entity. In African societies, the historical process is largely a communal one, with eyewitness accounts, hearsay, reminiscences, and occasionally visions, dreams, and hallucinations crafted into narrative oral traditions which are performed and transmitted through generations. In oral traditions, time is sometimes mythical and social, and ancestors were considered historical actors. Mind and memory shapes traditions as events are condensed over time and crystallize into cliches. Oral tradition can be exoteric or esoteric. It speaks to people according to their understanding, unveiling itself in accordance with their aptitudes. Africa is considered by most paleoanthropologists to be the oldest inhabited territory on Earth, with the human species originating from the continent. During the mid-20th century, anthropologists discovered many fossils and evidence of human occupation perhaps as early as 7 million years ago, before present BP. Fossil remains of several species of early ape-like humans thought to have evolved into modern humans, such as Australopithecus afarensis, radiometrically dated to approximately 3.930 million years BP, Paranthropus boisei, c. 2.3 1.4 million years BP, and Homo ergaster, c. 1.9,600,000 years BP, have been discovered. After the evolution of Homo sapiens approximately 350,000 to 260,000 years BP in Africa, the continent was mainly populated by groups of hunter-gatherers. These first modern humans left Africa and populated the rest of the globe during the Out of Africa II migration dated to approximately 50,000 years BP, exiting the continent either across Bab el-Mandeb over the Red Sea, the Strait of Gibraltar in Morocco, or the Isthmus of Suez in Egypt. Other migrations of modern humans within the African continent have been dated to that time, with evidence of early human settlement found in southern Africa, Southeast Africa, North Africa, and the Sahara. The size of the Sahara has historically been extremely variable, with its area rapidly fluctuating and at times disappearing depending on global climatic conditions. At the end of the Ice Ages, estimated to have been around 10,500 BC, the Sahara had again become a green, fertile valley, and its African populations returned from the interior and coastal highlands in Africa, with rock art paintings depicting a fertile Sahara and large populations discovered in Tassili, Niger, dating back perhaps 10 millennia. However, the warming and drying climate meant that by 5000 BC, the Sahara region was becoming increasingly dry and hostile. Around 3500 BC, due to a tilt in the Earth's orbit, the Sahara experienced a period of rapid desertification. The population trekked out of the Sahara region towards the Nile Valley below the Second Cataract, where they made permanent or semi-permanent settlements. A major climatic recession occurred, lessening the heavy and persistent rains in Central and Eastern Africa. Since this time, dry conditions have prevailed in Eastern Africa and, increasingly during the last 200 years, in Ethiopia. The domestication of cattle in Africa preceded agriculture and seems to have existed alongside hunter-gatherer cultures. It is speculated that by 6000 BC, cattle were domesticated in North Africa. In the Sahara-Nile complex, people domesticated many animals, including the donkey and a small screw-horned goat that was common from Algeria to Nubia. Between 10,000 and 9000 BC, pottery was independently invented in the region of Mali in the savanna of West Africa. In the steppes and savannas of the Sahara and Sahel in northern West Africa, people possibly ancestral to modern Nilo-Saharan and Mande cultures started to collect wild millet around 8000 to 6000 BC. Later, gourds, watermelons, castor beans and cotton were also collected. Sorghum was first domesticated in eastern Sudan around 4000 BC, in one of the earliest instances of agriculture in human history. Its cultivation would gradually spread across Africa before spreading to India around 2000 BC. People around modern-day Mauritania started making pottery and built stone settlements, e.g. Tichit, Ualata. Fishing using bone-tipped harpoons became a major activity in the numerous streams and lakes formed from the increased rains. In West Africa, the wet phase ushered in an expanding rainforest and wooded savanna from Senegal to Cameroon. Between 9000 and 5000 BC, Niger-Congo speakers domesticated the oil palm and raffia palm. Black-eyed peas and vonzaya, African groundnuts, were domesticated, followed by okra and kola nuts. Since most of the plants grew in the forest, the Niger-Congo speakers invented polished stone axes for clearing forest. Around 4000 BC, the Saharan climate started to become drier at an exceedingly fast pace. This climate change caused lakes and rivers to shrink significantly and caused increasing desertification. This, in turn, decreased the amount of land conducive to settlements and encouraged migrations of farming communities to the more tropical climate of West Africa. During the first millennium BC, a reduction in wild grain populations related to changing climate conditions facilitated the expansion of farming communities and the rapid adoption of rice cultivation around the Niger River. By the first millennium BC, ironworking had been introduced in northern Africa. Around that time, it also became established in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, either through independent invention there or diffusion from the north, and vanished under unknown circumstances around 500 AD, having lasted approximately 2000 years, and by 500 BC, metalworking began to become commonplace in West Africa. Ironworking was fully established by roughly 500 BC in many areas of East and West Africa, although other regions did not begin ironworking until the early centuries AD. Copper objects from Egypt, North Africa, Nubia and Ethiopia, dating from around 500 BC, have been excavated in West Africa, suggesting that trans-Saharan trade networks had been established by this date. Mainstream scholars have situated the ethnicity and the origins of pre-dynastic southern Egypt as a foundational community primarily in northeast Africa, which included the Sudan, tropical Africa, and the Sahara, whilst recognizing the population variability that became characteristic of the Pharaonic period. Pharaonic Egypt featured a physical gradation across the regional populations, with Upper Egyptians having shared more biological affinities with Sudanese and southerly African populations, whereas Lower Egyptians had closer genetic links with Levantine and Mediterranean populations. From 3500 BC, nomes, ruled by nomarchs, coalesced to form the kingdoms of Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt in northeast Africa. Around 3100 BC, Upper Egypt conquered Lower Egypt to unify Egypt under the First Dynasty, with the process of consolidation and assimilation completed by the time of the Third Dynasty, who formed the Old Kingdom of Egypt in 2686 BC. The Kingdom of Kerma emerged around this time to become the dominant force in Nubia, controlling territory as large as Egypt between the First and Fourth Cataracts of the Nile. The Fourth Dynasty oversaw the height of the Old Kingdom and constructed many great pyramids. Under the Sixth Dynasty, power gradually decentralized to the nomarchs, culminating in the disintegration of the kingdom, exacerbated by drought and famine, thus commencing the First Intermediate Period in 2200 BC. This shattered state would last until 2055 BC, when the 11th dynasty, based in Thebes, conquered the others to form the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, with the 12th dynasty expanding into Lower Nubia at the expense of Kerma. In 1700 BC, the Middle Kingdom fractured in two, ushering in the Second Intermediate Period. The Hyksos, a militaristic people from Palestine, invaded and conquered Lower Egypt, while Kerma coordinated invasions deep into Egypt to reach its greatest extent. In 1550 BC, the 18th dynasty expelled the Hyksos and established the new Kingdom of Egypt. Using the advanced military technology the Hyksos had brought, the new kingdom conquered the Levant from the Canaanites, Mitanni, Amorites, and Hittites, and extinguished Kerma, incorporating Nubia into the empire and sending the Egyptian empire into its golden age. Internal struggles, drought, famine, and invasions by a confederation of seafaring peoples contributed to the new kingdom's collapse in 1069 BC, commencing the Third Intermediate Period. Egypt's collapse liberated the more Egyptianized kingdom of Kush in Nubia, who maneuvered into power in Upper Egypt and conquered Lower Egypt in 754 BC to form the Kushite Empire. The Kushites ruled for a century and oversaw a revival in pyramid building until they were driven out of Egypt by the Assyrians in 663 BC in reprisal for their expansion towards the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians installed a puppet dynasty that later gained independence and once more unified Egypt, until they were conquered by the Achaemenid Empire in 525 BC. Egypt regained independence under the 28th dynasty in 404 BC, but they were reconquered by the Achaemenids in 343 BC. The conquest of Achaemenid Egypt by Alexander the Great in 332 BC marked the beginning of Hellenistic rule and the installation of the Macedonian Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt. The Ptolemaics lost their holdings outside of Africa to the Seleucids in the Syrian Wars, expanded into Cyrenaica, and subjugated Kush in the 3rd century BC. In the 1st century BC, Ptolemaic Egypt became entangled in a Roman civil war, leading to its conquest by the Romans in 30 BC. The crisis of the 3rd century in the Roman Empire freed the Levantine city-state of Palmyra, which conquered Egypt. Their brief rule ended when they were reconquered by the Romans. In the midst of this, Kush regained independence from Egypt, and they would persist as a major regional power until, having been weakened from internal rebellion amid worsening climatic conditions, invasions by Axum and the Noba caused their disintegration into Makuria, Alodia, and Nobatia in the 5th century AD. The Romans managed to hold on to Egypt for the rest of the ancient period. In the Horn of Africa, there was the land of Punt, a kingdom on the Red Sea, likely located in modern-day Eritrea or northern Somaliland. The ancient Egyptians initially traded via middlemen with Punt until in 2350 BC, when they established direct relations. They would become close trading partners for over a millennium. Towards the end of the ancient period, northern Ethiopia and Eritrea bore the kingdom of Dimt beginning in 980 BC. In modern-day Somalia and Djibouti, there was the Macrobian kingdom, with archaeological discoveries indicating the possibility of other unknown sophisticated civilizations at this time. After Demta's fall in the 5th century BC, the Ethiopian plateau came to be ruled by numerous smaller unknown kingdoms who experienced strong South Arabian influence until the growth and expansion of Aksum in the 1st century BC. Along the Horn's coast, there were many ancient Somali city-states that thrived off of the wider Red Sea trade and transported their cargo via Bedouin, exporting myrrh, frankincense, spices, gum, incense, and ivory, with freedom from Roman interference causing Indians to give the cities a lucrative monopoly on cinnamon from ancient India. The kingdom of Aksum grew from a principality into a major power on the trade route between Rome and India through conquering its unfortunately unknown neighbours, gaining a monopoly on Indian Ocean trade in the region. Aksum's rise had them rule over much of the regions from Lake Tana to the Valley of the Nile, and they further conquered parts of the ailing kingdom of Kush, led campaigns against the Noba and Beja peoples, and expanded into South Arabia. This led the Persian prophet Mani to consider Aksum as one of the 4 great powers of the 3rd century AD alongside Persia, Rome, and China. In the 4th century AD, Aksum's king converted to Christianity, and Aksum's population, who had followed syncretic mixes of local beliefs, slowly followed. The end of the 5th century saw Aksum allied with the Byzantine Empire, who viewed themselves as defenders of Christendom, balanced against the Sassanid Empire and the Himyarite kingdom in Arabia. The Maghreb and Ifriqiya were mostly cut off from the cradle of civilization in Egypt by the Libyan desert, exacerbated by Egyptian boats being tailored to the Nile and not coping well in the open Mediterranean Sea. This caused its societies to develop contiguous to those of southern Europe, until Phoenician settlements came to dominate the most lucrative trading locations in the Gulf of Tunis. Phoenician settlements subsequently grew into ancient Carthage after gaining independence from Phoenicia in the 6th century BC, and they would build an extensive empire and a strict mercantile network, all secured by one of the largest and most powerful navies in the ancient Mediterranean. Carthage would meet its demise in the Punic Wars against the expansionary Roman Republic. However, momentum in these wars was not linear, with Carthage initially experiencing considerable success in the Second Punic War following Hannibal's infamous crossing of the Alps into northern Italy. Their defeat and subsequent collapse of their empire would produce 2 further polities in the Maghreb: Numidia, which had assisted the Romans in the Second Punic War; Mauritania, a Mori tribal kingdom and home of the legendary King Atlas and various tribes such as Garamantes, Musulami, and Bavares. The Third Punic War would result in Carthage's total defeat in 146 BC, and the Romans established the province of Africa, with Numidia assuming control of many of Carthage's African ports. Towards the end of the 2nd century BC, Mauritania fought alongside Numidia's Jugurtha in the Jugurthine War against the Romans after he had usurped the Numidian throne from a Roman ally. Together, they inflicted heavy casualties that quaked the Roman Senate, with the war only ending inconclusively when Mauritania's Bocchus I sold out Jugurtha to the Romans. At the turn of the millennium, they both would face the same fate as Carthage and be conquered by the Romans, who established Mauritania and Numidia as provinces of their empire, while Musulami, led by Tacfarinas and Garamantes, were eventually defeated in war in the 1st century AD, however, weren't conquered. In the 5th century AD, the Vandals conquered North Africa, precipitating the fall of Rome. Swaths of indigenous peoples would regain self-governance in the Mauro-Roman kingdom and its numerous successor polities in the Maghreb, namely the kingdoms of Wassanis, Ores, and Altava. The Vandals ruled Ifriqiya for a century until Byzantine reconquest in the early 6th century AD. The Byzantines and the Berber kingdoms fought minor inconsequential conflicts, such as in the case of Gamel, however largely coexisted. Further inland to the Byzantine Exarchate of Africa were the Sanhaja in modern-day Algeria, a broad grouping of 3 groupings of tribal confederations, one of which is the Mazmuda grouping in modern-day Morocco, along with the nomadic Zenata. Their composite tribes would later go on to shape much of North African history. In the Western Sahel, the rise of settled communities occurred largely as a result of the domestication of millet and of sorghum. Archaeology points to sizable urban populations in West Africa beginning in the 4th millennium BC, which had crucially developed iron metallurgy by 1200 BC in both smelting and forging for tools and weapons. Extensive east-west belts of deserts, grasslands and forests from north to south were crucial for the moulding of their respective societies and meant that prior to the accession of trans-Saharan trade routes, symbiotic trade relations developed in response to the opportunities afforded by north-south diversity in ecosystems. Various civilizations prospered in this period. From 4000 BC, the Tichit culture in modern-day Mauritania and Mali was the oldest known complexly organized society in West Africa, with a 4-tiered hierarchical social structure. Other civilizations include the Kintampo culture from 2500 BC in modern-day Ghana, the Nok culture from 1500 BC in modern-day Nigeria, the Daima culture around Lake Chad from 550 BC, Gene Geno from 250 BC in modern-day Mali, and the Sera civilization in modern-day Senegal, which built the Senegambian stone circles from the 3rd century BC. There is also detailed record of Igodomigodo, a small kingdom founded presumably in 40 BC, which would later go on to form the Benin Empire. Towards the end of the 3rd century AD, a wet period in the Sahel created areas for human habitation and exploitation that had not been habitable for the best part of a millennium, with the Kingdom of Ouagadougou, the local name of the Ghana Empire, rising out of the Tichit culture, growing wealthy following the introduction of the camel to the Western Sahel, revolutionizing the trans-Saharan trade that linked their capital and Ouagadougou with Tahat and Sijil Massa in North Africa. Soninka traditions likely contain content from prehistory, mentioning 4 previous foundings of Ouagadougou, and holds that the final founding of Ouagadougou occurred after their first king did a deal with Bida, a serpent deity who was guarding a well, to sacrifice one maiden a year in exchange for assurance regarding plenty of rainfall and gold supply. Ouagadougou's core traversed modern-day southern Mauritania and western Mali, and Soninka tradition portrays early Ghana as warlike, with horse-mounted warriors key to increasing its territory and population, although details of their expansion are extremely scarce. Ouagadougou made its profits from maintaining a monopoly on gold heading north and salt heading south, despite not controlling the gold fields themselves located in the forest regions. It is probable that Ouagadougou's dominance on trade allowed for the gradual consolidation of many polities into a confederated state, whose composites stood in varying relations to the core, from fully administered to nominal tribute-paying parity. Based on large tumuli scattered across West Africa dating to this period, it has been stipulated that relative to Ouagadougou, there were further simultaneous and preceding kingdoms that have unfortunately been lost to time. At the 4th millennium BC, the Congo Basin was inhabited by the Bambenga, Bayaka, Bakoya, and Babongo in the west, the Bambuti in the east, and the Batwa, who were widely scattered and also present in the Great Lakes region. Together, they are grouped as pygmies. On the later named Swahili coast, there were Cushitic-speaking peoples and the Khoisan, a neologism for the Khoikhoi and San, in the continent's south. The Bantu expansion constituted a major series of migrations of Bantu peoples from Central Africa to Eastern and Southern Africa and was substantial in the settling of the continent. Commencing in the 2nd millennium BC, the Bantu began to migrate from Cameroon to Central, Eastern and Southern Africa, laying the foundations for future states such as the Kingdom of Congo in the Congo Basin, the Empire of Kitara in the African Great Lakes, the Luba Empire in the Upemba Depression, the Kilwa Sultanate in the Swahili coast by crowding out Azania, with Rapta being its last stronghold by the 1st century AD. These migrations also prefaced the Kingdom of Mapungubwe in the Zambezi Basin. After reaching the Zambezi, the Bantu continued southward, with eastern groups continuing to modern-day Mozambique and reaching Maputo in the 2nd century AD. Further to the south, settlements of Bantu peoples who were iron-using agriculturists and herdsmen were well established south of the Limpopo River by the 4th century AD, displacing and absorbing the Khoisan. By the Chari River south of Lake Chad, the Sao civilization flourished for over a millennium beginning in the 6th century BC, in territory that later became part of present-day Cameroon and Chad. Sao artifacts show that they were skilled workers in bronze, copper and iron, with finds including bronze sculptures, terracotta statues of human and animal figures, coins, funerary urns, household utensils, jewellery, highly decorated pottery and spears. Nearby, around Lake Edgegum in southwest Cameroon, the Ekoi civilization rose circa 2nd century AD and are most notable for constructing the Ekom monoliths and developing the Nisibiti script. Pre-colonial Africa possessed as many as 10,000 different states and polities. These included small family groups of hunter-gatherers such as the San people of southern Africa, larger, more structured groups such as the family clan groupings of the Bantu peoples of central, southern and eastern Africa, heavily structured clan groups in the Horn of Africa, the large Sahelian kingdoms, and autonomous city-states and kingdoms such as those of the Akan, Edo, Yoruba and Igbo people in West Africa, and the Swahili coastal trading towns of Southeast Africa. By the 9th century AD, a string of dynastic states, including the earliest Hausa states, stretched across the sub-Saharan savanna from the western regions to central Sudan. The most powerful of these states were Ghana, Gao, and the Kanem-Bornu Empire. Ghana declined in the 11th century, but was succeeded by the Mali Empire, which consolidated much of western Sudan in the 13th century. Kanem accepted Islam in the 11th century. In the forested regions of the West African coast, independent kingdoms grew with little influence from the Muslim north. The kingdom of Enri, which was ruled by the Izanri, was established around the 9th century, making it one of the oldest kingdoms in present-day Nigeria. The Enri kingdom is famous for its elaborate bronzes, found at the town of Igbo Ukwu. The kingdom of Ife, historically the first of these Yoruba city-states or kingdoms, established government under a priestly Oba, king or ruler in the Yoruba language, called the Uni of Ife. Ife was noted as a major religious and cultural centre in West Africa and for its unique naturalistic tradition of bronze sculpture. The Ife model of government was adapted by the Oyo Empire, whose Obas, called the Alafins of Oyo, controlled many other Yoruba and non-Yoruba city-states and kingdoms, including the Fon Kingdom of Dahomey. The Almoravids were a Berber dynasty from the Sahara that spread over northwestern Africa and the Iberian Peninsula during the 11th century. The Banu Hilal and Banu Makil were a collection of Arab Bedouin tribes from the Arabian Peninsula who migrated westwards via Egypt between the 11th and 13th centuries. Their migration resulted in the fusion of the Arabs and Berbers, where the locals were Arabized and Arab culture absorbed elements of the local culture under the unifying framework of Islam. Following the breakup of Mali, a local leader named Soni Ali 1464–1492, founded the Songhai Empire in the region of Middle Niger and the Western Sudan and took control of the trans-Saharan trade. Soni Ali seized Timbuktu in 1468 and Jena in 1473, building his regime on trade revenues and the cooperation of Muslim merchants. His successor Askia Muhammad Rip made Islam the official religion, built mosques, and brought to Gao Muslim scholars, including al-Maghili, the founder of an important tradition of Sudanic African Muslim scholarship. By the 11th century, some Hausa states, such as Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, and Gobir, had developed into walled towns engaging in trade, servicing caravans, and the manufacture of goods. Until the 15th century, these small states were on the periphery of the major Sudanic empires of the era, paying tribute to Songhai to the west and Kanem-Borno to the east.